Today is day 22 of Advent of Cyber, and today's challenge is called Threats Are Falling All Around Me. McSkitty wants to improve the security posture of Santa's network by learning from the recent attempts to disrupt Christmas. As a first step, she plans to implement low-effort, high-value changes to improve the security posture significantly. The learning objectives for this are to help McSkitty with her improvements. We will learn some concepts and evaluate some steps to take. These will include understanding what an attack vector is, understand the concepts of the attack surface, and some practical examples of attack surface reduction techniques that McSkitty can utilize to strengthen Santa's network. So, an attack vector is a tool, technique, or method used to attack a computer system or network. If we map the attack vectors to the physical world, attack vectors would be the weapons an adversary uses, like swords, arrows, hammers, etc. A non-exhaustive list of examples of attack vectors in cybersecurity include the following: phishing emails, deceptive emails that are often impersonating someone and asking the victim to perform an action that will compromise their security, denial of service or distributed denial of service, attacks sending so many requests to a website or web application that it reaches its limit and can no longer serve legitimate requests, web drive attacks, flaws in web browsers that compromise the security of the victim by merely visiting a website, and unpatched vulnerability exploitation, a flaw in the internet-facing infrastructure, such as web server or the network interface, that is exploited to take control of the infrastructure. The attack surface is the surface area of the victim of an attack that can be impacted by an attack vector and cause damage. Taking forward our example of the physical world, the attack surface will include the unarmored body of a soldier, which an attack of a sword, an arrow, or a hammer can damage. In cybersecurity, the attack surface will generally contain the following: an email server that is used for sending and receiving emails, an internet-facing web server that serves a website to visitors, end-user machines that people use to connect to the network. Humans can be manipulated and tricked into giving control of the network to an attacker through social engineering. Attack surface reduction. As you might notice, the attack surface cannot be eliminated short of running away from the battlefield. It can only be reduced. The Greek phalanx is an excellent example of its attack surface reduction, as seen in the picture. In the picture, the front of the army is covered by their shields, whereas the walls of a pass cover the sides, leaving no room for an attacker to inflict damage on the defenders without running into their defenses. This is how the Spartan army could hold back a much larger Persian army for several days in the Battle of Thermopylae. However, this attack surface reduction works for the weapons at the time. This technique will not impact the attack surface against modern weapons. In cybersecurity, the most secure computer is the one that is shut down and its cables removed. However, that is not feasible for running critical operations dependent on computers. Therefore, cybersecurity leaders aim to keep the operations running with the lowest possible attack surface. We can consider the goal as creating the digital equivalent of the Greek phalanx. Examples of attack surface reduction. Now that we have understood the concept behind attack surface reduction, let's identify the attack vectors that could be used against Santa's infrastructure. Let's help McSkitty devise a Greek phalanx defense to minimize the attack surface. Close the ranks. Santa's website was defaced earlier. When investigating the attack, McSkitty found that an SSH port was open on the server hosting the website. This led to the attacker using that port to gain entry. McSkitty closed this port. Put up the shields. Although the open SSH port was protected by a password, the password was not strong enough to resist a brute forcing attempt. McSkitty implemented a stronger password policy to make brute forcing difficult. Moreover, a timeout would lock a user out after 5 incorrect password attempts, making brute force attacks more expensive and less feasible. Control the flow of information. McSkitty was informed by her team about the GitHub repository that contains sensitive information, including some credentials. This information could be an attack vector to target Santa's infrastructure. This information was made private to block this attack vector. Moreover, best practices were established to ensure credentials and other sensitive information are not committed to the GitHub repo. Beware of deception. Another attack vector used to intrude the Santa's network was phishing emails. McSkitty identified that no phishing protection was enabled, which led to all such emails landing in the inbox of Santa's employees. McSkitty enabled phishing protection on Santa's email server to filter out spoofed and phishing emails. All emails identified as phishing or spoofed were dropped and didn't reach the inbox of Santa's employees. Prepare for countering human error. The phishing email that targeted Santa's employees contained a document containing malicious macros. To mitigate the risk of malicious macro-based documents compromising Santa's infrastructure, McSkitty disabled macros on end-user machines used by Santa's employees to avoid malicious macro-based attacks. Strengthen every soldier. McSkitty wanted the attack surface reduced from every endpoint's point of view. So far, she had taken steps to strengthen the network as a whole. For strengthening each endpoint, she took help from Microsoft's attack surface reduction rules. Though these rules were built into the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint product, she took help from these rules and created a similar set of rules for her own EDR platform. Make the defense invulnerable. To further investigate the infrastructure, McSkitty carried out a vulnerability scan highlighting some vulnerabilities in the internet-facing infrastructure. McSkitty patched these vulnerabilities found on Santa's internet-facing infrastructure to avoid exploitation. After implementing these steps, McSkitty was a little relieved. However, she understood that though her attack surface was reduced, she still needed to be vigilant to avoid any incidents. Come back tomorrow to see what other steps McSkitty takes to strengthen her defenses. See ya. Okay, so follow the instructions in the attached static site to help McSkitty reduce her attack surface against attacks from the Yeti. Use the flag as an answer to complete the task. So we'll go back up here and click View Site. Attack surface reduction. It's time to save Elf McSkitty from the Bandit Yeti. Correct answers will add shields to protect against the Bandit Yeti's attack. Add 6 shields to protect McSkitty fully. Add 6 shields to protect McSkitty fully. Only you can save it now. Match the attack vector with the relevant ASR action by moving the ASR action to the correct row in the right column. Okay. So Bandit Yeti has identified an open SSH port on Santa's web server. So you want to close that port. So unnecessary ports are closed. Put that there. Document file was malicious macros. That's implement policy to disable that, which is right there. Some sensitive data related to Santa's service found on file sharing website. That's sensitive data from the file sharing sites removed to avoid a Bandit Yeti taking advantage. Spoofed phishing emails are sent to Santa employees. You put phishing protection, you enable that. Password brute force, that you do stronger password policy, and okay, so password brute forcing attackers attempt on Santa's account, so you do stronger password policy. Then Santa's employee finds a USB flash drive in the parking lot. After he plugs it into his computer, malware is installed. You put an app locker, which is deployed to block execution of unknown, non-whitelisted applications. And we'll click next. And we now have our flag, which is attack surface reduced. So we'll copy that, and we will paste it in the flag. And that is day 22 of Advent of Cyber completed. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe.